Hello everybody and welcome back to another Ask Mevo Anything. I'm Joe Capehart. I lead the CX team here at Mevo and I'm excited to have you all back. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. I'm glad you feel like you're getting some great content from us. If you are a new viewer, be sure to put your questions in the chat, and that goes for everyone. If you have any questions about any Mevo products, Mevo apps, anything that, Mevo related, let us know. I'm more than happy to answer those live today. I am here in the Brooklyn office, our Mevo office here, so I am surrounded by some wonderful minds. So if you want to trick me, let me know, because I've got some power behind me. I got a couple engineers over there, and I can bother them throughout the day and get some answers for you if there's something I may not know. As always, we do these live shows 4 times a week. Starting next week, however, that's going to be changing just a little bit. We are going to be going live only Tuesdays and Thursdays. Our Tuesday shows will remain our Ask Mevo Anything, but we're going to change it up a bit. Instead of just me, it's going to be at least 2 technical specialists. So it could be Will, it could be the other Joseph, and we are going to be doing more of a Q&A. And then on our Thursday shows, we are going to be merging the Multicam show over there and our audio show, as well as the standard Mevo Live show, and it will be the Grand Mevo Live, essentially. And basically, you can ask any question. Oh, done tapped into myself. That's what happens when you have your phone in front of you. So we're going to be able to ask or answer any question, whether it's audio related, network related, whether you're going to ask questions about multicam. We will be prepared and ready to demo those for you on every Thursday. Now, these shows will remain on the 2 o'clock schedule, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are located in New York, so the Eastern Standard Time is usually our metric that we use. Although you can find us on Facebook and on YouTube. And then if you are not able to find our live shows, we do save all of our shows on YouTube. You can access any of the videos on demand on YouTube and see any of our past shows. But if you want to know and you're loving our shows, make sure you like, follow, subscribe. You can do that on all of our social platforms, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. We are at Mevo Camera, and if you follow us, that's where you'll get all the notifications when we're going live. So if you do enjoy our shows, please continue to follow and do all of those things. And we enjoy interacting with all of you, so hopefully you all come and tune in and join us. As I mentioned, be sure to put your questions in the chat. I'm going to be answering those throughout the show. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about RTMP. We're going to talk about some troubleshooting steps, best practices on, how to troubleshoot a network. I mean, when it comes to live streaming, networks are probably the #1 cause of any kind of hiccups or issues, especially if you're using a network you don't have control over. You might run into some issues that you probably didn't foresee, and we want to talk about how you can kind of prepare yourselves before your productions. Before we get into that, though, I do want to talk a little bit about our Mevo 3-pack. Oh, no, that's our Mevo show. What is going on here? What do we have going here? That is not what this is supposed to be. There it is. Our Mevo Start 3-pack. So our Mevo 3-pack is in stock at Mevo.com. It's available exclusively on Mevo.com. So you're not going to be able to find that anywhere else. You're not going to find it on Amazon. You're not going to find it at Best Buy. You have to go to Mevo.com to get those. And they are in stock, along with a lot of our other products. I know a lot of you have been waiting for some shipments. A lot of our products are back in stock. So we do update these regularly, probably every couple hours, whether we're sold out, not sold out. So if you're trying to get your hands on something, don't hesitate to go ahead and place your order. That way you're in the queue. But for most of the products that we have right now, they're in stock. So the single Mevo Start, the 3-pack, the PoE case, table stand, all of those are in stock and available. So if you do place your order, you should be able to get it fulfilled within a timely manner. So don't hesitate on doing that. I know when you see back order, it gets a little concerning. When will I get it? Will I ever get it? You will get it, and you can get it sooner rather than later if you place your order today. Along with that, I do want to talk about our referral program. So a referral program on Mevo.com/referral, you can sign up for a custom coupon code and basically share this across your organization. You can share it with your YouTube channel, your Twitch channel, whatever it may be. You can share it and save whoever you're sharing it with, whoever's using it on Mevo.com for their purchase. It's going to save them 5% their total purchase cost, and you're going to earn 5% off of that purchase. Like I said, and I say this every time, and I'm going to continue to do so. It's really unique because it's not a system-generated coupon code. It's a custom coupon code that you've created. So you can name it after your organization. You can name it after your channel, your following, on whatever it may be, your organization. And when you hand that out, it's going to be a lot more personable, and people are going to trust it and want to use it. And that ensures that you're getting that 5% and saves them money too. And it's a win-win for everyone. But those custom coupon codes, I know they're used a lot more frequently than those system generated ones. So if you're not part of a referral program and you are already recommending Mevo products, be sure to go to mevo.com/referral and get your hands on, get registered today for that. Before we go in today, I'm going to go ahead and answer, well, it looks like we got a single question, so I'm going to go ahead and answer that question now. Raymond says, what's the best way to connect 4 Mevo starts to vMix? So Raymond, that's a great question, and I mean, it's for many reasons. So obviously we all know that Multicam is a 3-camera solution, and then the Mevo 2.0 is a single camera solution. So what about those users who want to get more than 3 cameras? So you mentioned vMix. You have vMix, Wirecast, Ecamm, OBS, Streamlabs OBS, Livestream Studio 6, all of those platforms, and they all accept what is called NDI. So the Mevo Start offers NDI HX, which is the lower bandwidth requirement for NDI. It's going to use a lot less bandwidth, but you can get up to 15 megabytes per second bit rate, 1080p from your Mevo. So I haven't mentioned it today, so I might as well go ahead and do that while we're at it, huh? Let me see. Is this the slide that I need? Yes, perfect. All right, I'm actually using today a Mevo Start, and it is also running via NDI. For my microphone, I'm using this blue baby bottle. I've got the Vimeo Producer for overlays that you're seeing right there, and then Streamlabs OBS for screen demos. And you may be wondering what I'm talking about when it comes to screen demos, and that is this right here. I am prepared and ready to show you exactly how the Mevo app works. But you mentioned using 4 cameras on the vMix. Well, this Mevo is actually using NDI into OBS. It would be the same method for vMix. So basically, and I recommend doing it via Ethernet, although you could do it wirelessly if you wanted, but you did ask the best way. So the best way would be running the Ethernet cable using a power over Ethernet adapter for your Mevo Start and running via NDI. So NDI is going to allow you to basically mount your camera however you want to throughout, up to 300 feet. Ethernet supports 300 feet, so you should be good to go. And you can wire up to, there's really no limit. It's basically based off of your network. So as long as your network can handle it, you can add as many Mevo starts as you would like to your vMix production. For our Mevo live shows that we do on Thursdays, we run even up to 7 or 8 Mevo starts. A couple of them are running via Wi-Fi, most of them are running Ethernet, because Ethernet's the best way to do it. If you can't risk failure with your stream, then you should be running via Ethernet. It's a great question, Raymond. So yeah, NDI would be the way to go. I would 100% do that. Looks like he's adding some stuff. Can you use PTZ? Yes, you can absolutely use a PTZ controller over PoE because you're using NDI. And so when it comes to using a PTZ controller, you're going to want to use NewTek Studio Monitor, and you can control the PTZ functions from there, and it will 100%, it'll look just like this. So we've got that demo again. Let's get that back here. So when you control it via NewTek Studio Monitor, you're controlling this box essentially, and you can 100% do that with the PTZ functions of NewTek Studio Monitor. You can attach a joystick or whatever it may be, use your mouse pad, a touchpad, whatever, and you can 100% control all of the virtual movement that you see in the Mevo 2.0 app. You can do that all via NDI using the Studio Monitor, and then that output would obviously be what vMix is seeing. Great questions overall, wonderful. And as I mentioned, everyone, please keep those questions coming. The best part of these shows is interacting with you. So if you have questions, whether you might think it's a basic question or you might think it's too complex, please bring those questions. I want to answer them. The best part about these shows, as I mentioned, is interaction with the user. And if you don't have any questions, then you probably don't need to do the shows anymore. Right? So I want to keep doing the shows and I want to keep interacting with you. So keep those questions coming. So as I mentioned, I'm going to go over a few different things today. As I show you the next slide here, we're going to talk about Mevo hotspot mode. Oh, I got my demo up still. I'm messing everything up today, aren't I? That's a Monday for you. I mean, it's Tuesday, but it's Monday really. Okay, so we're going to talk about Mevo hotspot mode and what it is and how does it work. So Mevo hotspot mode is basically where your Mevo is creating a wireless hotspot network, and your phone can connect to it. Once that happens, your phone is actually going to begin, or whether it's a tablet or phone, it really doesn't matter, but it's got to have a 4G LTE connection. And when it does have that connection, basically what you're going to experience is your phone's going to begin to provide data through your Mevo, or to your Mevo Start. So although the network is technically the Mevo's network, it's actually going to I guess you could say siphon the data from your phone. And this is a lot more efficient than trying to use your phone's mobile hotspot by default. Those hotspots typically have limits. You're gonna get billed more because of those limits. A lot of I think like Verizon has like a 10 gigabyte limit per month or something for those tethering hotspots. Whereas when you use the Mevo hotspot, that limit is completely untouched. You're not gonna see any kind of limits, or I can't even think of the word right now. You're not going to see as much fluctuation or issues as you would with the built-in hotspots. And not to mention, a thing that we see pretty commonly is users try to use their phone's hotspot. When they connect to it, they actually can't connect your phone to the Mevo because as far as your phone's concerned, it created a separate network. It's not a network that your phone's also on. So when you try to use your phone's network, a lot of the time it simply doesn't work that way because your phone's technically not on the network that it's created. And so your phone and your Mevo are completely isolated. Now, other things to take into consideration, as I said, is the platform's limitations. When it comes to using your data, whether it's AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, whatever it may be, these platforms begin to throttle your data. So when you're streaming, you're obviously going to use a significant amount of data depending on the bit rate you've got selected, the resolution, and all of those things that you have to take into consideration. Now, AT&T has, and Verizon, T-Mobile all have different throttle rules. Now these are as of April, I think. Yeah, bottom right says April. It was a little too small for me to read. So as of April, these are accurate. I haven't checked this month. I probably should. It's been about 3 months now. So as you can see, AT&T begins to throttle data anytime if you have the unlimited starter plan. If you have the unlimited extra, they begin to throttle after 50 gigabits. Or gigabytes, whatever. And then the unlimited elite, you get 100 gigabytes. Verizon gives you 50 with the do more, play more, get more plan, and then they can begin to throttle you. And then T-Mobile gives you the 100 gigs for any plan that's less than the Magenta Max plan, whereas the Magenta Max plan gives you unlimited data without throttling. Now, what is throttling? And a lot of users don't really understand how this works. Is basically you may have great signal. You may have awesome bars or connection to that tower. However, as far as your provider is concerned, you've used too much of it. You've used too much data, all of your allocated data, you've used too much. So they no longer give you the fastest speed and they throttle it, which means they're limiting you on how much bandwidth they're gonna let you use. And they're gonna prioritize other users around you. And you may not know this is actually happening. You look at your bars and you're like, hey, I've got 5 bars. Why am I not getting wonderful speeds? Well, the signal and speed are two different things, but when you have to take it into consideration, the throttling that comes from your mobile provider, it's something you should definitely be aware of. And one thing you can really do before every production, regardless if you're using a network that you're familiar with, regardless if you're in a location that you're familiar with, what you should always do is do a speed test, whether it's fast.com, speedtest.net, google.com. I use all 3 of them technically because they all give me 3 different results. But by using 3 of them, it gives me a better idea of what I'm looking at. And the reason that you want to do this, regardless of if you're comfortable with where you're streaming from and how you're streaming, is that things change, whether you're being throttled, whether there's the network's being overloaded, whether it's an Ethernet, Wi-Fi, or a mobile network. For example, a popular thing right now is still baseball, soccer. A lot of things are really happening right now. A lot of sports are really happening right now, and tournaments. Tournaments are really big right now because spring sports are wrapping up, so they're in the tournament mode. So a lot of things that are happening is people are going to these locations that they're pretty used to streaming from, right? And the more people who begin to show up and arrive in that location who are using the same tower as you, the more bandwidth that's going to be taken up, the more times that bandwidth is going to be divided between more and more users. So you're getting less and less resources. You may start a stream and it was wonderful, but then like halfway through the game, 2 other games started around you, and more people are streaming. So the more people you notice that are using that tower are going to be eating that bandwidth. So it's something you have to take in consideration, especially when it comes to throttling and using mobile data in general. And I talked about basically what it looks like between signals and your actual signals and the actual connection quality that you're getting. One thing you have to take in consideration is the signal to noise ratio. This is from surecall.com, but it seems to meet my, basically it's a great way to explain how to really know quality of service that you're actually getting from your, whether it's Wi-Fi, whether it's Ethernet, or most notably is the mobile hotspot using your mobile data. So if you look at that the green squiggly lines, that indicates signal strength, and then the red squiggly lines indicate the noise floor. One thing that you really want to kind of look at is the signal strength is how good of a signal that you actually have. And then that noise, think of it as like you're at a convention center, and that's how much noise the people around you are making, whether it's wireless noise or just vocal noise. And then take that signal strength, and that's how loud your friend's speaking from the other side of the room. They're trying to tell you something from across the room, but there's a lot of noise. So for scenario 1, this is like a decent situation, not perfect, but it's decent. You've got your friend, he's speaking at a decently loud manner, and then the noise is very quiet. People aren't being very loud, so you're gonna get a decent speed or internet speed from the signal that you have. Now scenario 2, you can see the noise floor is very low. People aren't talking very loud at all, and now your friend's yelling across the room. You're going to receive that information significantly better than the previous example where he was just speaking at a normal tone. Now he's yelling, and people, they're not getting the environment around you did not get any louder. So now they're yelling across the room. You can absolutely hear them. That internet speed is way better now. There's nothing interfering with it. Now scenario 3, you notice that the noise floor still hasn't moved. Now, that's great and all, but now your friend's whispering. He's trying to whisper over a convention center of people. So basically, his signal is now lower, and then the noise stayed the same. So in the scenario like this, you're probably not going to hear someone whispering from across the room, no matter how much noise there is. The signal's not great. The noise is still steady at that lower level. In a scenario like this, you're going to get slow to no internet connection. There's not more interference, but the signal's not as good as it once was. He's not speaking as loud. So now your internet is either non-existent or extremely slow, where streaming is going to be limited. And then the next thing, the scenario 4, you've got signal strength at its maximum. He's back to yelling across the room. You can still try to hear him, but the issue is now everyone in that convention center is yelling. There's more mobile devices causing noise. There's more people talking louder. And now you're competing against all of that extra noise that was introduced into the environment. So once again, even with that wonderful signal, the more people that are interfering with the signal entirely, the less quality of internet speed. So once again, you're going to get that slow to no internet experience overall. And this I tried to make a little bit more sense with the example of people speaking, but this is a very common issue, is that users go to locations and they wonder why, I've done this before, I've been there before, it's worked great, why now? There's a lot of things to take in consideration: the level of noise, the level of, how much is that bandwidth being split between users. A lot of really big things that take in consideration. When it comes to streaming, using mobile data can become a little bit more difficult because more people are trying to use it. So some people have gone and purchased purchased mobile hotspots, and sometimes networks do prioritize those. So maybe that's something to look into. They'll prioritize that over a mobile phone. So if you are a Verizon user, T-Mobile user, that's something you can absolutely ask your provider. Hey, if I purchase this, does my data get prioritized over, say, someone trying to stream over a phone and use data? To see how they prioritize things like that, because that's really going to make a big difference. Oh, I don't need to switch anything yet. Let's go to the next one. Now, I did talk about doing those speed tests, and I can't stress this enough. No matter how often you are streaming at a location that you're familiar with, no matter if you're using Ethernet, Wi-Fi, or mobile hotspot, you should be doing speed tests. Now, these are the examples I provided earlier, speedtest.net, google.com, and fast.com. And the reason I say you should be testing regularly, I've got 3 examples right here to talk about how much these things fluctuate. This is the same exact computer on Ethernet. And these tests were done within the same day. And as you can see, Google says I'm going to get 222 megabytes per second upload. And then we've got speedtest.net on the bottom left that says we're going to get 756.3 for our upload. And then fast.com says 660. Now, the reason that you want to be doing these tests so frequently is because even Ethernet can fluctuate very similarly as wireless and mobile data. And these are, I mean, this is a consistent test. I did this test in the same location using the same exact identical configuration, just different time of day. So imagine how much time and how much fluctuation you could see from your mobile device using a hotspot or a wireless device in a convention center or something like that. You should expect fluctuation, and you need to prepare for that. You have to absolutely test for that. And that's why I say, no matter how comfortable you are with that location, with your internet, whatever it may be, no matter how comfortable you are, if you want a successful stream and you really want to make sure that you don't run into issues, the thing that you really need to do are speed tests. You need to test. And when you think you've tested enough, do it again. Live streaming is unpredictable, and the best thing you can do is control the variables that you can control and be prepared for worst case scenarios. All right. Questions. All right, we've got a time for questions. I've got these split up, so it doesn't look like we got very many. Raymond's back. What's the best way to handle low light with the Mevo over power over Ethernet? So low light and the PoE are kind of, they're not really going to make a difference. PoE is not going to affect low light or great light. Now, low light, for example, here we've got some studio lighting, which is great if you have it, if you got space for it, the budget for it. If you have low light, you can 100% go into the image adjustment settings. I'm on the wrong thing here. Let me go ahead and open up this full screen demo. If you go down to the bottom right, you got the ellipsis here, and you can press the 3 circles for image adjustments, and you can adjust things like your contrast, you've got saturation, and your brightness in exposure. So we've noticed, like in our experience, that saturation at 1.2, contrast at 1, and exposure on 0 or something, you know, you can kind of play with it a bit. If we go up a little bit, this is a little low light. I don't have his studio lights on at all, so I guess this is like a perfect test. You can up your exposure a little bit. It might mess with his skin tone, so you're gonna have to mess with it. You can see it's starting to wash out, so we're gonna lower that a little bit more. But you can also go over and mess with the saturation and contrast. And Will, I know you're watching, so when you come in and do your show, make sure you fix your camera because I'm breaking it. But the better lighting, you're going to do about a 1 contrast and 1.2 saturation, but you can adjust that based on where you're at. So, for example, for me right now, my set specifically, I've got a 1.2 or negative 1.2 exposure, 1.1 contrast, and 1.2 saturation. So with his lights off, we would probably lower that saturation a bit and then increase the exposure. I've got a negative exposure on this one because I've got all this studio lighting. He has no lighting, so we're probably going to increase and go positive on the exposure. So you really have to kind of adjust your image adjustment settings based on your environment. It's really difficult to tell you like exactly what you should use just because the environment's different. He's by a window. I'm not by a window. I've got studio lights on. His are off right now. Lots of things to take into consideration. I would just do slight micro adjustments between exposure, contrast, and saturation. Do some micro adjustments, you know, 0.01, 0.02 change at a time. Kind of see how those are affecting your image and then kind of adjust it based on your preference. But what I do recommend is no matter what the budget is, make sure you do have some lighting. You know, I mean, cameras love lighting. That's no different from the Mevo. DSLRs love them. Webcams love them. the more lighting you have, the better it's going to look. So don't think that this is a solution for all, is adjusting those image quality settings or image adjustment settings. You still should introduce some lighting when you have an opportunity. Connor says, is there a way to use Switcher Studio with Mevo Camera? No, there is not, Connor. I apologize. So Switcher Studio requires you use a switcher hub, and I believe you need like an HDMI input. I don't think they accept RTMP or HDMI or RTMP or UVC. Now, if they do introduce RTMP or UVC, which is the USB webcam mode from Mevo, if they do introduce those things, then you could do it. As it stands right now, there's no output that Mevo has that Switcher supports. So they're just not compatible. But what I do recommend is use the Multicam app. The Multicam app supports up to 3 Mevo cameras, whether it's a first gen, Mevo Plus, or a Mevo Start. You can use 3 of them. You get graphics for free, all of those great things you can do within the Multicam app. And you can go without some kind of central hub. You don't need it. You can just use your Mevo as a hotspot, connect all 3 of your Mevo to a single Mevo, and stream and record that way. Dr. McFarland says, how is the multi-camera setup going? I'm using the wireless webcam option and Streamlabs OBS. Yeah, multicam is doing great. Actually, will be live tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, to go over some multicam stuff. I'm not sure if he's doing it from here, if he's doing it from home. Not sure yet, but he's going to be bringing some great content. So if you're curious about multicam, I would definitely check out his show tomorrow at 2 p.m. The app is making wonderful strides. I got a little briefing earlier about, you know, what's coming and what it looks like, and I think everybody's going to be extremely pleased. Our team's working really hard, and multicam is only going to get better. Unfortunately, I can't really talk about what I was briefed on, but I mean, you all know, like we've talked about, like picture-in-picture and all of those cool things, webcam mode and stuff like that. We've talked about all that stuff, different layouts. We've talked about it all. We've announced all of that. Don't have a timeline for it yet, but I did get to see some of the early versions, and I think you guys are all going to be very, very excited and very happy with what the team's come up with. They're working really hard, and I'm excited to use it, to be honest. I think there's going to be a specific point where I don't even need OBS or something like that. There's going to be a point where the multicam app's going to be everything I could possibly need to use for a production. And I mean, I guess that's really the goal. And when we get to it, it's going to be awesome. Sanskrit says, I'm trying to reduce bandwidth stress on a single network SSID. Can I attach several Mevo cameras to a router, one both wireless, and attach this router 1 to 2, and then connect multicam app to router 2 to control and live stream from router 2. Router 2 is connected to the internet. In other words, the multicam app would connect to router 2. Okay, that was a lot. Okay, so you want to connect 2 mobile devices. No, you want to connect your Mevo to one router and your mobile device to a second router. I mean, let's see here. If you're using a completely separate router, I don't see this working well without any kind of without any kind of additional configuration. I would just use separate switches. I mean, is there a reason? There's not very many routers right now that can't handle multicam, to be honest. Not many modem routers are going to be maxed out by multicam. I don't really think the use of using two routers would really benefit you. Yeah, honestly, I just wouldn't even bother with it. If you are using routers that you need to split like that, then they are probably going to need to be replaced anyways. But no, the actual answer to the question is no. They're not going to be able to communicate without some advanced configuration between the 2 routers. Now, if you have a router with 2 switches, then sure, those 2 switches, the devices should be able to connect, depending on how those ports are opened within the router itself. You could accomplish the same thing with the 2 routers, but at the end of the day, multicam is up to 3 Mevo and a mobile device. You really don't need 2 routers for that's such a. I mean, for example, I've got 10 Mevo on this camera or on this network right now. I've got multiple tablets, my desktop, my phone. All of these things are on the network right now, and really, it's not stressing it out. Although Doctor does say he's seeing a little bit of lag, so I am curious of that. Will, can you comment on? I'll get the doc's question, but if you could comment on the lag. Is he seeing, if you could put it in the talk doc, is he talking about actual lag, or we have some skipping, or if you could provide some clarification, Will, that'd be wonderful. Or Doc, if you could provide that as well, that'd be great. Raymond says, what distance can the Mevo be for live streaming? Okay, so Raymond, it's a great question. So it depends on what you're using. If you're using the Mevo hotspot, then your Mevo is going to be reachable up to about 100 feet. Now, your mobile device could run into some issues, and I noticed this recently, actually. I had a Mevo in my car streaming, and it could reach the local Wi-Fi here. My phone couldn't. Mind you, my phone's the S21 Ultra. It's one of the newest phones out on the market, and the wireless simply couldn't reach our building. However, the Mevo could. So if you start running into issues with strength of connectivity, I would check your mobile device more so than your Mevo. Your Mevo is going to go up to 100 feet without any much issue. And of course, those limitations are going to come out to, is clear line of sight, or their walls and things like that. Now, if you're trying to do, for example, run via Ethernet, then you can go up to 300 feet. And then the Ethernet will start to have issues, just because cat cables typically go up to 100 or 300 feet before they start running into any kind of craziness. But for the most part, as long as your network, you could have multiple, like say you have a mesh network on a campus, you could be on one side of the campus, on the other side of the campus, and your Mevo is going to connect. So there's tons of variables on how this would work. But if you're running via Ethernet, the single Ethernet cable can't exceed 300 feet. If you're running via Wi-Fi, you could basically be as far as the Wi-Fi reaches, regardless of anything like that. So there's a lot of variables. So Will provided some clarification. There was a little skipping, a slight sync issue with video audio. Okay, so I did some testing, Doc, earlier. So what is the biggest factor on correcting this for a seamless and smooth live stream? Okay, so the biggest factor is to have complete and total control of your network. We actually share our network with the building here. We did build a secondary network, and we've configured that to work and function independently. However, it seems recently our network may be conflicting with the local network. So we actually do have a meeting tomorrow to kind of deal with that. But this is kind of that's where coming into play of having complete control of your network. Then you have to rely on the local network to be functioning properly, or your network is going to be affected. Our network, unfortunately, is basically a branch off of their network. So if their network messes up or has any kind of data issues, our network's going to be affected. And same for, it's basically the same of going anywhere else. So at the end of the day, you really just want to make sure you have complete control of your own network. Unfortunately, not always the case. And I understand you can run into some issues, and that's not always available to you. But that's where complete control becomes a giant benefit. Now, obviously, Ethernet is going to fix a lot of these things, making sure your computer can actually process and encode everything. Other variables that have affected us at one point or another, Facebook has had issues in the past, YouTube's had issues in the past, Vimeo's had issues in the past. So, I mean, there's a lot of variables between the origin of the video, which is here on this Mevo, and then the destination. It's got to go through a computer. It's got to go through the network, get to the computer, go back through the network, go to Vimeo. Vimeo's broadcasting it. So there's a lot of things that you really have to take in consideration. Now, if you do run into issues like we are today, which I'm going to troubleshoot as soon as this is over, if you do run into issues like this, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start eliminating things. I'm going to, instead of going to Vimeo, I'm going to eliminate Vimeo, and I'm going to go directly to Facebook. We have a group and page that we go directly to do testing. And then I'm going to go directly to YouTube, see if that eliminates any issues. If I don't notice any stuttering, skipping, anything like that, audio, video sync, then I'm going to go ahead and resolve that. I mean, basically point out, well, Vimeo seems to be the issue. If that doesn't solve it, I'm going to start doing some other things. Instead of using OBS, I'm going to eliminate that. I'm going to use the Mevo 2.0 app. If there's no stuttering, no issues with that, the audio video sync is solved, then I know there was probably some issues either with OBS or with the computer. There's a lot of things to really take in consideration as you were kind of eliminating parts of your setup as the potential issue. If I notice Mevo 2.0 does not solve the issue, what I'll probably do is I'll flash my camera back to an older version and I'll test that to see if maybe we had an issue or a bug in our release. If so, I'll let the team know, we'll push an update and resolve that. So there's a lot of things that go into play. I'll eliminate each individual destination. I'll eliminate the computer. I'll eliminate the network. I'll eliminate everything. I test everything, cables. I'll go to Wi-Fi instead of using Ethernet to see if maybe my Ethernet's messed up. There's a lot of things to test and to try to figure out what was actually the cause of what we're experiencing. Sanskrit says, have you ever tried a Lightning to Ethernet adapter to hardwire connect? Oh, 100%. Okay, so not Ethernet from your Mevo though. So I'm not talking like Ethernet to this to the iPad, but yes, I've ran Mevo via Ethernet and I've ran my tablet via Ethernet too. It's the best, most stable thing you can do. You can absolutely run your tablet via Ethernet, and actually I've recommended it for many universities who have used the Mevo for graduations for mostly last year. A lot of them had some people in some connection issues too far away from the stage, or just too much noise and frequency issues, conflicts. So basically they ran their mobile device via Ethernet and they never had a dropout again. All right, so Fred the Hippo and Jack Rofael, I apologize if I butchered this. Can Multicam work with iOS 15 beta? Yes. So it should work with iOS 15. We've not tested it. Unfortunately though, with kind of like any situation, this is a beta. So if you're using beta software, whether it's Mevo beta software, or you're using an iOS that's a beta, or Mac OS that's a beta, or a Windows release that's a beta, you should 100% expect, you just have to know that you're using it at your own risk. There can be issues, and that's another one of those troubleshooting things. Revert back to what's a stable version and not a beta and see if it fixes it. Will says he's already done it. It works. But still, we've got to have that asterisk up there and let everyone know when you're using beta software, no matter who it's from, it's still beta and you kind of are using it at your own risk. If you're trying to use it for a production, I don't recommend using beta stuff for productions. If it matters to you, then don't use beta stuff. Sanskrit says, can you recommend an Ethernet dongle? Well, Sanskrit, actually, Will may actually be able to go on the go on our help.mevo.com. There is an article. You can type in Ethernet adapter. Will might be able to link it for you in the chat, but we do have a list of Ethernet dongles. If you're talking about specifically for a tablet, most of them will work. Well, any of the Lightning Ethernet adapters will work for that. If you're talking for the Mevo Start, we have the Mevo Power Ethernet adapter. If you don't need PoE, there are some third-party solutions as well that work via USB-C, and you can check out our article that covers all of that. Wow, we're at 42 minutes already. Let me try to keep on pumping through the show. So we're going to talk about local Wi-Fi networks now. Okay. So local Wi-Fi networks. So we talked about, distance between your Mevo, right, and your network. How far can you be? It depends. If you're using a local Wi-Fi network, as I said, you could do a mesh network. You could be, a couple 100 feet away from your network if you wanted to. As long as there is an access point within 100 feet of you and your network, you should be fine. Now, if you're trying to use Ethernet, then you're limited at that 300 feet. But once again, this is discussing Wi-Fi. But basically what happens is your phone's connected to the Wi-Fi, the Mevo's connected to the same Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi is going to send out the stream to the destination. I'm not going to go over questions there. So now we have the Ethernet option. And this is where that 300 feet limit comes in. You can 100% connect your Mevo via Ethernet and run your phone via Wi-Fi to the same exact modem or router. Now, if you want to run your tablet or phone via Ethernet, you can do that as Sanskrit asked. You can 100% run them both via Wi-Fi. You can run one via Ethernet. You can run them both via Ethernet. Whatever you want to do, as long as it's on the same network and isolation isn't enabled on the device, you should be able to do that. I 100% recommend running via Ethernet whenever possible. Not always necessary for your mobile device, but if you're looking for the most concrete connection, then that is something I would definitely consider. Whoa, Now the Mevo Multicam app. The Mevo Multicam app is a little different than all of our other connection options. It's significantly different. So what's different about the Multicam app? So the Multicam app is essentially the encoder. And all the other configurations, the Mevo encodes the video and sends it out to the internet through your modem or router. In this situation, your Mevo is going to send its individual feed to your network, and then it's going to get sent to the Multicam app. Now your mobile device takes that feed, and based on the selections that you make, it's going to broadcast out a program out. So this is what your users are going to see. So based on the feed that you have selected, it's going to send that out to the program out, and then send it back to the modem router, and then it's going to go to the internet from there. Now, this is very important to note because no other configuration is the same way. And every other configuration that you use a Mevo in, the Mevo is the encoder. So when you're using Multicam is specifically using the mobile device, whether it's a tablet or a phone. It's using that to encode, and it's using all of the processing power from your mobile device. So that's why it's currently limited at 3. You know, who knows if we increase it down the road, but it's because the mobile device is specifically doing all of the encoding. Now, I do want to talk about this a little bit more because I know I mentioned it previously in the last setup, but you could technically run 1, 2, 3, whatever Mevo cameras on Ethernet, and then the remaining cameras on Wi-Fi. You do not need to have them all connected to the same method. So you know, if you do have to run a couple of them via Wi-Fi, I would at least recommend running one of them via Ethernet. That way you have a fail-safe if something happens to the Wi-Fi. One of your Mevos, specifically your main camera, is still available via Ethernet. But, you know, for the most part, if your network's configured pretty well, you shouldn't run into any Wi-Fi issues. But that's something to keep in mind, is that you can 100% run some of them via Wi-Fi, some of them via Ethernet, and be good to go. All right. Last but not least, before we get into questions, again, if we have any before we wrap up, things and common issues that users have or anybody has when streaming. It's not even just Mevo, it's any type of streaming. A lot of issues are closed ports. A lot of networks have some issues with communication. They close a lot of ports for security reasons. So if you find yourself at a conference hall, a business, a corporation, public network, whatever it may be, you're going to run into some communication issues. And then that brings us to peer-to-peer communication. Hotels, conferences, conference centers, lobbies, guest networks, McDonald's, Starbucks, all of those places, they turn on AP isolation or station isolation, also known as peer-to-peer communication. So what does that mean? If you're connected to a network like this, and you connect a secondary network that you also have communication with, so you connect your phone and your Mevo, odds are they will not find each other. Why is that? Isolation basically is done for security reasons. The last thing anybody wants is a user or a customer connecting to their network and being hacked, essentially. They want to make sure that they are protecting you and their network. They don't want somebody else. It is a guest network, so anybody, any Joe Schmo could connect and try to take advantage and connect to your device and you know, get access to your device and the data on it. So by having AP isolation on, it basically halts any device from communicating with another device on that guest network. So that means the Mevo and phone would not be able to communicate. They might see each other, but they won't be able to send data to one another. So you might see it, you might press connect and it'll fail. That's the reason why. The third thing is the upload speeds. As I mentioned, you want to 100% check your upload speeds before you go live. No matter if you're comfortable with the location, the internet, whatever it may be, check it anyways. I mean, as somebody had pointed out, I think it was Doc asked about, you know, some skipping and audio and video sync issues. You know, I did tests earlier. I tested my speed. I did a test in our test group, and we're still having issues. So, you know, it only goes to show you that live streaming is a very complex thing that the Mevo tries to make as simple as possible, but at the end of the day, you still have to make sure that the network's good. So you have to make sure you're testing consistently. Interference. So once again, we talked about signals, network overload with shared networks. You have to make sure that that noise, the amount of population in that area is not so great that you are being basically throttled by data because that tower's being overloaded, or you're not using a network at a convention center that everybody else at that convention center is using. There's simply not enough bandwidth on that network for you to get good enough speeds to stream. So make sure you're familiar. I highly recommend, if you're going somewhere that you have no access, you've never used before, or even if you have used it before, odds are the network admins probably did some updates. Maybe they changed some things, some protocols. So if you're going somewhere you've never been, I 100% mention or recommend that you go somewhere within 24 to 48 hours of your live stream. Do your test. That way you can contact the network administrators to ensure that you can get things resolved before your show or production. The last thing you want to do is show up the day of, within an hour or two, set up, go live, and have issues. So I mean, you know, I'm going to practice what we preach. We have a meeting tomorrow with the local network admins, and we're going to get this figured out so we don't continue to have issues. So I practice what I preach. I promise I'm not telling you to go do these tests. Do not, you know, I want to make sure that everyone is best practice. You know, test your things, test again. Am I back? I think I'm back. All right, so if you are hearing me on YouTube, I apologize. We just completely had a complete network shutdown, it looks like. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up. I do appreciate everybody tuning in today. I apologize for any of the issues. As I mentioned, you know, the streaming is not for just everyone. There are some complications that you can run into. Even as professionals, we still run into some issues like this. So we're going to try to, you know, get these situations figured out, and hopefully you all will join Will tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Multicam show. Until then, I'm Joe Capehart, and everybody from here at Mevo, we will see you all tomorrow. Thanks.